Hello, me again, and what I'm going to talk about today is the first unit that we're working on, which is definition. That'll be the first paper that you write. It'll be a definition paper. Now, here's the thing about definition. You think, definition? Really? Isn't that something you get in a dictionary? How can you write a whole paper defining some term when you can just look it up in the dictionary and the whole definition is something like, 9 words long? But here's the thing, definition really is one of the most important cognitive processes that a civilized society does. Because think about it. Exactly what is your job? Tell me, if you have a job, what is that job? What differentiates your job from the job of the person sitting next to you, or the job of the manager for that instance? Or what kind of person are you? How would you define yourself as a person? Or for that matter, let's say you are a mentor to a younger sibling. What kind of mentor are you? What does mentoring mean? What race? Think of race. I'm a white guy. What does being white mean in the United States today? Define that. You think you can define that in 9 words that you find in a dictionary? I don't think so. And this gets at what the vital issues are in society today. With definition. Think that definition is a way of containing something, of saying, here's what it is and here's what it isn't. Definitions create essentially a view of the world. To define is to offer a vision of the world. And to define something is also to contain it or control it. Bigotry, things like that, come from bad defining. Think about all the expressions of bigotry you've seen or heard about or experienced. Don't they generally come from bad definitions? So definition is a big deal, and it's one of the fundamental steps in doing the kind of critical thinking that's going to make you a powerful citizen and a powerful professional someday. So as we think about definition, let's go through some terms and define some terms, and think about what those definitions suggest. So here's our first one. And by the way, how do you like my high-tech special effects? Auto safety. All right, so how would you define auto safety? Well, most people would define auto safety such as driving in such a way to keep yourself and others safe. Okay, that sounds good. That's a pretty good definition of auto safety. Except that when you define it that way, it puts the definition in the hands of the driver. What about auto safety as designing a car that includes all the important safety features such as airbags and anti-lock brakes? Well, that's auto safety as well, isn't it? Except that auto safety suggests that the responsible party is the car manufacturer. Or what about auto safety is made up by the laws designed to ensure that streets are orderly and traffic flows effectively? Well, then auto safety is actually a term that's a governmental term, talking about what laws are created and what rules are constructed to create safe streets. So definition, even of such a simple term as auto safety, ends up determining who is doing the defining. Right? See, let's hear that again. Once you see the definition of a term, you learn something about the definer. Because defining is containing and controlling, the definition says something about the container and controller. All right, so let's look at the next one. Library. All right, so most people would think of library as, well, it's that place you go when you want to borrow a book. You don't want to spend $28 on the hardback copy of the new bestseller. So you go to the library and you check it out there and you read it. In a couple of weeks you take it back. Awesome, library. And if you are a creature of today, you might think, well, the library is a place where you go that not only can you check out books and other media, there are also bays of computers that allow people who don't have computers to do research and to do work online, and occasionally a community center. Well, you know what? That is a more updated definition of library. But where else do you see this term? I don't know about you, but I see this term on my computer when I open up iTunes. It's my iTunes library. So wait, so then a library can be something which only exists on in digital form? Of course. So the term library has shifted to becoming any set of information that is gathered together and is searchable. Well, in today's world, that means a lot. A lot of things are libraries then. So then notice how those definitions of library are all definitions that have changed over time. Library is a place that has books, old definition. Library is a place that has books and other media, another definition. Library is a place that has books, other kinds of media, and by the way, is a community center for research and other kinds of computer work. An even newer definition. Library as any collection of media of any sort in any form. Wow, that gets to be a very big definition. And notice that, a person who defines a library potentially as, what they've got in their iTunes account is a person who has a computer, is technologically adept, and is really part of this new technological world, this new digital world. Well, that person defines library in a much more, let me turn off my phone, in a much more contemporary way, and it's going to be very different than the person who defines library simply as a building with a bunch of books in it. Right? The difference in age between those two definers is probably 40 years. All right, let's look at the next one. Football, right? This is SEC country, right? The ASU Golden Rams country. Football. How do you define football? Well, football is kind of a complex term. I mean, it's a very complex game. How do you define something like that? Well, consider this definition. Football is a popular game in which two teams of 11 players try to score points by advancing the football past the other team's players. That's pretty good, right? But, that is as good a definition probably as we could come up with in one sentence. You know what? You don't get really a very good sense of what the game actually looks like. That definition doesn't say anything about its violent nature. So it's reasonably accurate, that definition, but it's also vague. Well, consider this definition. Football. Football is war in which usually no one dies. Well, right. That definition doesn't say anything about the number of players, the fact that there's a ball involved. All that definition does is capture the heart of football. So instead of defining football in a very practical 3D game sort of way, I define what I see as the purpose, the heart, the goal of football, which is to create this game that is thrilling and violent and frightening and really, by American standards today, the single most interesting game because it is war in which usually no one dies.